I guess all of you have come across, read, maybe encountered a lot about disruptive innovation. Many of you perhaps have done the disruptive innovating, but I'd like to just trigger this discussion with the question of, in all the stuff that we have seen, airlines and Uber and the taxis. Uber has come and disrupted the traditional taxi. So the traditional taxis were disrupted by radio taxis, and they tried to fight those. Radio taxis have been disrupted by Uber. We heard from Abhishek about the disruption that, potential disruption that's possible in the financial industry space, where the incumbents are fighting that disruption, and they're fighting it through laws, through in other places like in Africa, about 45% of the GDP travels on M-Pesa, which is a mobile payment system, and that, of course, it can be blocked if the regulator wants to do it. So I think what we would like to simply look at is how can you cross over from the side getting disrupted to the side doing the disruption. So Mohan, would you like to take a stab at it? And you have the experience now on a range of roles, from the technology industry to education. In the technology industry, for example, the companies which started from internal IT shops of companies and became big software services exporters, now are they getting significantly disrupted by all these Salesforce.coms and the completely disruptive models that we heard about today?
See, let me explain in a very macro sense. In the industrial revolution and pre-industrial era, communities were small, people knew each other, and the markets were not widespread. The industrial revolution created widespread markets, and these widespread markets led to a globalized marketplace, and there was a supply chain. I mean, there's a consumer here, there's a producer here. From a self-contained community to a factory-based model, for the last 150 years, we had a supply chain issue with the producer trying to reach a consumer through a very varied process. And why it had to be that way? Because there were limits to distribution, the limits to flows of information, and there were limits to product innovation. And there is no way you could have a common market. Now, because of the web, when everybody is connected and the network impact and the web going on to the mobile, 6 billion people are connected together in a very different way. And it means the supply chain from the producer to the consumer is getting totally disrupted because a lot of value is being eaten up in the supply chain. And that's the disruption you're seeing in all places where you reach. For example, take education. In education, you need to go to a college, you need to go to classes, there is a degree, there is a professor, and you're a student, you write an exam, and you've got to learn. Now, education has got two components. One is the formal part of getting a degree, which is a regulatory issue, and there's the issue of learning. How do you learn? At the end of it, you get tested for the knowledge that you have. Now, earlier it was dissemination of knowledge. So knowledge was there, the professor, in the book, he disseminated. But the knowledge is on the web. You can go alone and you can Google and get what you want. You don't even have to think, you just have to pose a question, Google will answer for you. And if Google doesn't answer, you ask Sharad, you ask Prasanto, you ask anybody else, and you will get the best in class answer. So I have to think very differently. So my value addition as an educated person will be an ability to look at a problem and try to solve a problem, getting access to information and best in class opinion, and understanding that, analyzing that. But the entire process is getting disrupted because I got direct access. And the MOOCs are one of the ways of getting direct access without going to a formal process. Now look at banking. Banking, there is a payment system. Right, like I said earlier, the payment system. In the payment system, there's a person who's got money, deposits the bank uses the money, acts as spread, does the risk management, and lends it out. So there's a lending. Then there's a payment system by which you start connecting people, and you can process payments all across. You can make payments in any part of the world. Now through a mobile wallet, you put money into the mobile, and the mobile to mobile can connect anybody in any part of the world. In the UK, a company has come up which is disrupting the chain through which you make remittances. How do you make remittances? You go to a bank or go to a entity, and the entity will take your money and then transfer to another entity where you've got an account, and it happens here. So money actually flows through the system. Now this entity in the UK is coming to the system whereby you want to send dollars to America, somebody wants to send dollars to India, somebody wants from India to send dollars to outside. So you keep the American dollar in America, the Indian rupee in Indian rupees, and then when somebody wants to send the money, the rupee goes from rupee to rupee, the dollar goes from dollar to dollar. So you have local clearing, but money doesn't flow across the system. Now, this is a disruption of the value chain. So this kind of disruption is happening in any industry that you want. You spoke about Uber. How was it? There's a taxi regulator, you got a license, you hired a taxi, you regulated, you stood there, you went there. Now you and I can go to Uber and we can take somebody across you with the license. It may be illegal, but that's how it's getting disrupted. So my view is the supply chain, which I call, reaching the consumer and the producer in any field of human activity is getting disrupted by direct access. What is going to happen after that? We got to see. But this is a big disruption in a big order all over the world.
Let me just take you up from what Mohan said to both you gentlemen from Jaipur who are very familiar with the market here. You know, these disruptions are clearly happening. In most of these examples in the past and now, we have seen the companies and the entities and sectors who are getting disrupted have been fighting that disruption. Okay. Now, we see it again in the traditional seller space. Okay, traditional sellers worrying about e-commerce. I have been part of IT reseller channels meetings, resellers from places like Jaipur and other second-tier cities who are saying that Flipkart is going to kill us and they're going to kill us with investor money which they're using to subsidize this. We can't fight that, so we have to fight that legally. Kerala IT Association has gone and you know, they have said you can't sell online stuff in Kerala. So that's a great victory for us. How would you advise people, you know, who are fighting innovation? Because we've seen this cycle through history. You know, when telecom players got disrupted by VoIP, they fought it first. They fought it legally. They fought it every other way. Finally, after 3-4 years, whatever, AT&T began to join the bandwagon and so on. What do you see happening here?
2-3 answers to it. I deal it every day actually, because we meet with the physical offline people also and online people also. We have a startup here, Abra, who is solving this problem, trying to bring in offline people in an e-commerce world. So a mithai ki shop, a normal mobile shop. So actually, if you see the pain area right now, which you are referring to, is only on the electronics market, not on otherwise much, because the supply chain happens through the original vendors. Mobiles market, where this market is coming in a grey market. A lot of fine people have found the innovation ideas. They are now buying from Flipkart and selling it offline. So they are bridging the gap.
Sure.
So that's also happening, right? And I saw it, and it's happening in Japan. People are, I don't know how to do it. And recent example is iPhone 5C is available on iPhone.
And therefore they're finding, okay, we'll pay that premium for the control, the lack of long distance headaches on the other side of the planet and so on. And so beyond the point that disruption is not just causing automation, replacing jobs, but a tip over, a reversal of outsourcing.
Yeah, it is very interesting. See, traditionally, the disruption used to kill a business in a few generations. See, somebody builds a business and then his grandson sees that the whole premise on which the business was built is now gone away. That was even acceptable. But here, now, it is happening in such a fast pace that one needs to worry about. So they need to worry about killing their own effort and innovation. Really, because if we don't kill our innovation, somebody else is going to kill that. So I guess companies which are forward-looking are constantly looking at how can they really go to the next level. You know, if they don't disrupt, somebody else is going to disrupt their business. So they are looking at constantly, and that's the only way companies can build. See, they have the advantage of being an incumbent, knowledgeable on their market because of their presence already. So obviously they know how to disrupt it better than a new guy coming from somewhere outside. Maybe they will have other edges like channels and so on and so forth, which is already inbuilt in their business, which they can utilize in the new business.
Yeah, that's working, yeah.
You know, I want to pick the thread on what you said about line 3, right? How it came from the left field and disrupted it. People talk by the father of this whole theory about disruptive innovation, Clayton Christensen. Has anybody heard of him? He teaches at Harvard, very famous guy. from commodity memory chips to microprocessors way back. If you've read the book by Andy Grove, the Only the Paranoid Survive, that's actually, celebrating Clayton. Now he gave a talk recently, and you know what, he's now of course in his 70s, very famous man. He had a stroke, so he wrote a book, What Matters in Life, which went on to become a big bestseller, New York Times bestseller, etc. Where he revealed that he's a very devout, he's a religious person, and he starts his day with a prayer.
Because he was the biggest maker.
Precisely, he's a Mormon, right? And he reveals that he starts this talk. He says, you guys know I'm religious. I start my day with a prayer. I don't know who to pray for. Should I pray for Harvard, which has been great to me for 35 years, or should I pray for my Curie, which has been right for whatever 30 years, right? So because if my theory is right, then my prediction is that all Ivy League universities, or 50% of the Ivy League universities, will be in financial doldrums in 10 years. He says, I'm not saying 11 years, not 12 years, I'm not saying mid-level universities, I'm not saying there will be financial difficulties, I'm saying there will be financial doldrums, right? So if I really want Harvard to do well, perhaps my theory is wrong. But if my theory is right, then probably Harvard is in trouble, right? So he says, I don't know what to pray for. Now he had everybody's attention. Now the central point of his theory is the following. We are in a hotel. Let us say this hotel aspires to become a Ritz-Carlton. The playbook that it needs for Ritz-Carlton is well known. It needs slightly better rooms, better linen, not that this is a bad hotel, but it has to, there are a set of services that it needs to offer to be a Ritz-Carlton. That playbook is well known, right? Ritz-Carlton can look at that playbook from a mile and recognize that this competitor is coming. When disruptive innovation happens is when you offer the Ritz-Carlton experience without the Ritz-Carlton playbook. And usually that happens when a technology spine develops and this new entrepreneur uses that technology spine to deliver that experience. So in the case of Ivy League universities, as you pointed out, his theory is that Ivy League universities provide a learning environment, provide credentialing, thappa, right, so that you can go out in the world, and then provide a strong alumni network. His view is that all the three are getting unbundled, and the entrepreneurs will offer these three things which will be as good as Ivy League, but without using the Ivy League playbook. Now this is what happened to LimeTree, right? Somebody came in and offered the LimeTree value proposition without using the LimeTree playbook. And the person who invents or comes up with this new playbook is usually not an insider, is a person with an outside-in perspective rather than an inside-out perspective. And that is therefore the critical need of the hour in today's world. And I think this is where your earlier talk becomes so viable and relevant, because what social media does, it keeps you connected with this outside-in perspective. And that is therefore central to having an ability to deal with disruptive innovation. Otherwise, you will be overwhelmed with it no matter what. I used to work for AT&T. If I may take a minute more, I just want to finish with this story. I used to work in the AT&T Lucent family for a number of years, right? And I did build a startup as part of Cisco. So I was part of this whole telecom revolution till 2004. And if you came to me in 2004 and you said, Sharad, 5 years from now, AT&T will not be the largest carrier of paid international voice minutes, I would have laughed at you in 2004. I would have said, who would beat AT&T? British Telecom, Hong Kong Telecom, China Telecom, who could do it? Impossible, right? In August of 2004, there was a little piddly company born in a country I could not put my finger on, called Estonia, which in 2009 did overtake AT&T in paid international voice minutes. And you know what the name of that company is? Sky. So this is what disruptive innovation is, right? So I could go on and on, but I leave it at that for now.
So I want to just come to you with this, an extension of this question that, companies here, how aggressively should they be looking at disrupting themselves? And we've seen very few examples of both industries and companies which have proactively disrupted themselves. Usually it's somebody else who's coming to do it. And I want to give you one example which will, I think, again resonate with there's a lot of gems and jewelry here in Jaipur. We looked at this segment again in that FICCI study. We found, so there's about 30 tons of diamonds which are mined globally. 90% of them are sent to India and mostly to Surat for processing. There's about 500,000 people in Surat who use great expertise handed down the generations for this polishing and processing. Now there's technology coming which is increasing their productivity fairly rapidly. Okay, visualization, polishing, layered scanning which lets you quickly figure out a rough cut diamond. Now the 30 tons will not change very much. But if a productivity goes up 10x, then this 500,000 people will need to find something else to do. Now the question is, should this industry proactively do that disruption and say, hey, we are the best guys to actually design that? At which point do businesses here say that we want to disrupt? In education, how many of the universities are saying, let's disrupt our own business by aggressively shifting to MOOCs?
Well, before I answer that, I want to make another point, I think, which is very important. The key is innovation disrupting business or is capital disrupting business? That's a very important point. And I don't believe it's innovation disrupting business as much as disruptive capital disrupting business. The world is awash in liquidity, the world is awash in cash. That's a given today, if you look all over. Now, is there the innovation happening? The innovation does not attract enough capital for whatever reason. The innovation will die. Because the innovation has to succeed in a scale up in a dramatic manner to make an impact. Take Uber. If Uber was not able to raise that capital, Uber will die. Now he's worth $50 billion. Because of $50 billion, he can raise 5 billion, 6 billion. There's nobody who can raise 5, 6 billion. If Uber is a crappy product, it's not going to work.
So now innovation backed by capital.
I don't know whether innovation backed by capital or capital backing innovation. So because, I'll give another example. Look at Taxi for Sure and Ola. Ola by all indications was a crappy product when it started. And Taxi for Sure is a better product. They focus on technology, on innovation. They forgot capital. Whereas Ola went and got capital. Some of them were able to sell better, get capital. Suddenly an enormous amount of money, and they could throw the money, subsidize, and they just scaled up. And then Taxi for Sure was gone, and they sold out, and it's over. So who was more, Sharad, you could answer, who was more innovative as a product, as technology? I mean, my knowledge is that Taxi for Sure was much better, but these guys had more capital. Look at Paytm. Paytm is an ordinary product. There's nothing big in that. Very ordinary. There's no great technology, no great innovation. But what happened? There's some 25, 30 million people to loan and all that, and then you've got this capital coming in, and suddenly they're number one. If they're not got the capital, what will happen to them? So we have to be careful to understand that a huge pool of capital floating around. That capital wants to disrupt existing businesses and go to the edge. Like I gave an example in my talk of Solar City and utilities. And this capital driving it disrupts the business because it fosters enormous growth in a short period of time to reach more and more consumers. Then the markets play by shorting, destroying value. So in this scenario, what should companies do? Okay? Because companies are becoming victims of this capital-seeking disruption. So I think the entrepreneurs in the capital should understand this game as to where value is being created. Value is being created in innovation, value is being created with capital coming in. Alright? If the innovation is dominating and suddenly the find value is being created because somebody's got dollars of capital and is doing that, I think they should sell out, get the best value and kiss it goodbye. Because if they don't do that, they will die. Because like Sharad keeps telling us, in many of these businesses, it's winners takes all. In the earlier era, there were multiple players. Here, it's winners takes all. And why winners takes all? Because in the internet era, it is one single market and one person can cater to everybody with a standardized product, which is the consumer and the producer. Alright? So when should companies change? Companies should change, one, when they're not getting further capital, they run out of cash. I should answer the question earlier. And two, when they see very clearly competition getting dollars of cash more and they know the writing is on the wall because they don't not able to get the short period of time, they can see the scaling up, this J-curve going all the way to the skies. So companies have to be very careful in this game, whether they're existing companies or the other companies. And lastly, if you look at the United States and see the last 15 years, neither the consumer, the middle class person has seen his income rise, nor the producer has seen the market value go up. It's the disruptive capital that has captured the greatest value, created the most amount of billionaires, and they've done very well. And this is a portent of things how they're going to come, because the battle between innovation, labor and capital has moved in favor of capital.
Okay, Sharad, just a quick response from you on this, and let me extend another example. WhatsApp. Now, telecom operators are up in arms about WhatsApp calling. This whole net neutrality thing, they've convinced DOT that everything else is okay, net neutrality is good. But same service, same rule should be there, because the telcos are terrified of WhatsApp calls. Okay. Now, should the telcos be, now by the way, telcos also have a lot of cash. Okay, so it's not as if, WhatsApp has all this capital backing it, but telcos are not, green horns in the game as far as capital is concerned. Should the telcos be proactively disrupting themselves or fighting this through legislation and DOT and TRAI as they are currently doing?
Yeah, so first of all, there is an interplay of capital and technology, as you said. One way to think of it is that a company goes from 0 to 1. And that is usually a survival kind of a game. They are trying to figure out whether there's a product market fit or there's a fit with a problem in the market. Then they have to go from 1 to 10. And up till now, this has been only a focus in getting to 10. What we are learning is that actually, because of the winner-take-all mindset, the real game is played out between 10 to 100. And if you have not planned for that 10 to 100 growth, while you are still in the 1 to 10 journey, you will stumble and fall. So these disruptive capital guys that are coming in are very quick to pick out when you are in that journey from 1 to 10, whether or not you have the potential to go from 10 to 100. Right? That is the sixth sense that they have developed. And if they feel you don't have it, they won't give you the dollops of capital. And if they feel you have that capacity, they will give you the dollops of capital. So I tend to actually feel that it is not the capital that is determining the outcome. While in a sense on the surface it does appear that is the case, but it is what the entrepreneur is doing to play the 10 to 100 game. Even
no more in the
yeah,
most of them don't know.
Most of them don't know. And this is the beauty of the Western entrepreneurs today. They have learned, because there's such a deep pool of entrepreneurship that is there, they have learned to prepare for the 10 to 100 game, even once when they are going from 1 to 10. And you've seen this play out in tech industry again and again. And therefore, because they play that game explicitly, and you can watch this, in that Facebook movie, if you really think of it, that's what Sean Parker was advising our friend Zuckerberg, is no, prepare for the 10 to 100 game. You may not be even anywhere near 10, but prepare for that game. And if you prepare for the game, all these guys will come and so, which is why this guy went in his pajamas to pitch to Sequoia. Because he had the arrogance that I have thought through the 10 to 100 game, although I am just about to reach 1. He had not even reached 1 million users at that time. So I think while there is an interplay of capital and innovation, I think this is still very much in the hands of the entrepreneur, and they are going to determine what is happening. I will come back to the mentality question
No, look, there is many industries where regulators are there because they want to produce the consumers. Now, I think they are the greatest danger of getting disrupted because they keep the eye on the ball, because they're making good money and they keep eye on the ball. Look at WhatsApp happening now. When WhatsApp came, the existing players should have gone to the regulator, should have made a noise to say, this guy is a freeloader. Why? Because we have built all the tubes, we have built the connection. Now this guy can go from maybe 500,000 to 1 million, it's fine. If he goes to 20 million, he's using up a lot of bandwidth which other people are paying, and he's not paying for it. And this guy's got a valuation of 25 billion or 19 billion. Why is the 19 billion valuation? Because he can scale up at practically zero cost. I mean, the cost is not bearing. So sorry to him, they should have gone and pleaded the case and done well. If you look at this Paytm and all that, they got to impose a regulatory cost to even the fee. Now when you're a regulated industry and you go after them and these guys sit quietly and watch themselves getting paid, I think they're the greatest danger. This net neutrality games are played very differently. For example, Facebook, Google, and you take this WhatsApp, what part of the global fiber are they using today? Maybe 25-30%, and they're not paying for it. It means you and I are paying for it, but the value is going to them. The value is going to them.
So,
they got $500 billion of market value.
So, Mohan has made a lot of incendiary statements about net neutrality, which we will not go into because that's a separate debate. But yeah, we should take him on in a net neutrality debate sometime. Do you have a view on this question of at which point should a company look at, or a business or a sector look at disrupting itself ahead of the curve of disruption, or should it kind of wait to get disrupted?
Very important, they constantly need to look at it. So whether they come from outside in, as Sharad was saying, the guys are already in, so obviously you got to think outside in. But of course, more would say that unless there is capital, it would not work, right? The capital drives everything, or innovation drives the capital, or capital drives innovation is the debate which we are going through here. Very interesting stuff. What is important is that as the capital comes behind the innovation, when the capital feels that this is going to go 1 to 100, 10 to 100 as Sharad was saying. So obviously that preparation should have been put in the 1 to 10. Early in the game, see, success could kill the company. So it is the second mouse which eats the cheese. Because the first guy went and then he crashed, right? He could not survive. So obviously the capital will go behind those who potentially are ready for scaling.
Okay, so before I just have one last thing that I want to close with, but let me break for questions at this point. Are there any questions that you've got on this? And it'd be great if you can add who's asking them so we have a sense. Are you getting names?
Prasanto,
yeah.
Once you are successful, very difficult to change the model. Look at Microsoft.
Sure.
They didn't see the cloud coming, they didn't see many things coming.
Yeah.
Is Nadella going to change? Adobe. Look at Intel. Intel is stuck.
Totally.
Intel is stuck. Look at Google. They're not coming anything different from search, even though they got all the world there. Look at Facebook. Facebook suddenly saw WhatsApp coming and they bought WhatsApp. Now what is next for Facebook? Facebook is getting stale and old, right? So if you think that every company can be innovative, can keep on changing, innovate everything, that is rhetoric. It doesn't work. The reason is very clear, because once you become big, you become like Clayton said, you become a defender of the faith. Because you got a faith. And the faith will be successful. So you become a defender of faith. Because to disrupt the faith and get a new faith, you don't have the energy.
Okay. So
he's saying, because I think Mohan, you mentioned something in earlier in your remarks, which is I think so powerful. See, because this whole notion of creative disruption that the West adopted is actually an Indian idea. It comes from an Indian
dance,
right? And exactly, and it
went from all entrepreneurs the Tandava dance.
You can actually trace it because it actually, before it got to Schopenhauer, who took it, it came from, there's a sequence of people who you can actually now trace it back how it went from India and went there. And I think some of the West adopted that idea in their economic thought, and we did not But it's time, as Mohan is saying, we have to just accept it and adopt it and celebrate it, because that is how a vibrant economy will emerge. That companies are not ever durable; they come, play their role, and disappear, and new ones come in its place.
I'll give you an example. A very interesting discussion. In a polytheistic faith, is an open system. So it's only an open system that can recreate itself by creative discussion, because in an open system, while something is being defended, something new is coming up, and the new grows very high till what is being defended comes on by itself. So system has got to be open. So when you have proprietary software, it's a closed system. And closed system by itself cannot disrupt itself, because it doesn't allow it to be disrupted. It always bars innovation because the defenders of the faith are too many. So you need an open system. An open system that constantly changes. And companies are not open system, they're closed system. And that is an important thing.
Okay, so defenders, have you built up such a faith that you are defending?
And
I want to just mention.
Yes, you have the last one.
I think there is something very powerful that is developing. And I would say this is largely coming from Bangalore. Now, this is at a company level. See, I think the conversation that is taking place in Bangalore is that if you really look at entrepreneurship, what is entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is about courting adversity. If you want a safe job, you don't become an entrepreneur, right? You court adversity, because if you've done 50% growth, you will set a target to do 100%, right? So Now, adversity will crush a person or will make the person stronger. It is a choice that the individual has to make, right? Now, an entrepreneur implicitly is making a choice that, look, I want adversity to make me stronger. And that choice therefore means that he or she is actually deciding to overcome their internal self-limitations, because that is all this is all about. And if you decide to overcome your self-limitations, right, then no matter what the outcome is, whether your business succeeds or not, you have overcome your self-limitation and you emerge purified. So therefore there is a thought moving in Bangalore saying just the way we promoted Char Dham or Hajj, in today's day and age, we must promote entrepreneurship, because every entrepreneur emerges purer than before. And this is a purely Indian concept, and this is why entrepreneurship back to our culture, because this is really where it originated.
So the remaining question I'm going to address to you gentlemen on this is the human resources impact of this. But let me just quickly come to, let's take maybe three quick questions on this.
So this question is for Mr. Mohan. How can a software startup from Jaipur become a global company?
Okay, do you have
I don't have the names of the people.
Who asked this question? Can you put up your hand? Okay, what are you? Are you a software startup?
Yeah.
Okay, system. So what do you do? What software?
I'm the co-founder of Hippocampus.
Of?
Hippocampus.
Okay.
You know what you got to do? You got to escape the orbit and get into the orbit of the world. Orbit of Jaipur, escape the orbit of Jaipur, like Rahul Gandhi said, go to Jupiter trajectory and get in the orbit of the world. Think with the answer carefully when you got time.
Rahul Gandhi may not be a great person to do it. Yeah, do we have another question?
How can a business keep track of the vulnerability in its current operation? How does it recognize the volatility?
Okay, so I think this is more on the lines of the same thing. At which point you recognize that you are in danger of disruption? Is there some way, can we learn from industries which have got disrupted? Can you watch out for markers? Is it when
you don't grow, somebody is growing faster, you're not cool anymore, nobody follows you. There are parameters,
But Ajay, so for example, take the telecom industry. It's growing, it's got cash.
Somebody is growing faster.
Yeah, well, somebody is growing faster, but that somebody all said and done is globally very small still.
No, but very large.
Maybe one has to look at the advantages. As Mohan was saying earlier, if you are committed to a front foot stroke, then you can't change it because it is too late. Obviously that could happen. But however, those who are watching the ball, who want to play with proper methods, they might be able to do it. And there is a way in which companies pivot, right? Yeah. So maybe they will have to find what is their edge based on operation.
Prasanto, can I just say something very, very disruptive?
Okay.
The entrepreneur has got to understand a business is built for sale to make money, not to build a great company. If you understand that, you can make logical reasons. In your life, everything is for sale except your wife. Because you got so much of energy put in the relationship, you can't do it again. Very serious. But in the business, the day you marry your business, you are dead. Because the business is going to get killed after a period of time. So you got to find out at what value is peak and people are giving you value. Just sell, go and go to Hawaii and go to Goa and start the next business. That is what must be done. Now the entrepreneur in the business, the gap has to go on. That's what the entrepreneur has to do. Like Sharad did. And now he's in multiple businesses, he's not married to any business. So he's always innovating, he's always at the cusp of innovation, he's always in the next great company, so he's going to pass, he's passed everything. You understand what I'm saying?
Entrepreneurship should not be thought of as a single cycle one, but should be multiple cycles within one's life.
But you got to be a billionaire, that's the right.
Okay, sorry, can we just, you were going to add something to that?
I was just saying that, as you already said that the big companies have to keep that faith, and so they cannot innovate, they cannot kill their own business. Kodak is a great example where they probably invented the digital camera, but they didn't want to sacrifice or kill their own business, which was of films, which they were the largest, and they withered away. So I am in the telecom services industry, And what we have seen is that in every 3 years, the business model for companies like us totally changes. So I have to, so whatever I was doing 3 years back is only 10% of my turnover today, and what I am doing today will only, if I survive, will only be 10% of my turnover after 3 years. So if we do not have a mechanism in the company, which is totally separate from what we are doing, so we have to have a mechanism of innovation which does not have the learnings of the business that we are doing. You were saying the companies have the learning. I am saying that's the biggest problem. Because they know the business, so they think that is the business. They cannot see beyond the horizon. So if we have a mechanism within the company which does not understand that, which is away from that, then we can keep regenerating ourselves.
No, I actually want to comment on that. I think that is necessary. Unfortunately, it is not so. See, I think the reality of Kodak is Kodak still has the most patents on digital photography. Kodak saw this coming. See, if you remember, actually the myth is that Kodak didn't know what was coming. They knew what was coming. Kodak was a 1 mile long factory near Boston, where you took the raw material and film came out on the other side. That was the moat that it had, and that moat disappeared in digital business. They knew it was coming. I'll give an example from PK's world. Newsweek. Newsweek actually saw this coming. In fact, in 2007 they hosted an analyst conference saying, luckily we were wrong, this is not coming, our numbers are still looking good, and 4 years later they were out of business, right? So the issue is not that you are not looking and you have to be watching out for it. But the problem is that even when you are watching out for it, it may still come and kill you. That is the problem that you have to worry about. And to worry about that, the biggest issue, the most difficult issue is dealing with non-linear change. On my Facebook thing I shared, because I have nostalgia, of a big drive, carton full of drive, which in 1956 is being loaded. And that drive had only 5 megabytes. That was the largest drive in the world. And IBM drive, it was being loaded. I started as a Unix kernel programmer in 1986. And we built a twin CPU machine, you may remember Cosmos, which had a 20 megabyte drive. 30 years it took to go from 5 megabyte to 20 megabyte. Now if I tell my daughter that it was 20 megabytes, she laughs at me. She says, what is 20 megabytes? There is nothing, for her 20 gigabytes is not enough. Right? So this is a pace of linear change. Human brain is not designed to handle linear change. Right? So you have to teach yourself how to project the future non-linearly, because this does not come naturally. And that is the biggest challenge in being able to keep a lookout for what's going to happen in the future. And wherever we are talking about technology, 10 years from now, Clayton may be actually right, because what he is projecting is a non-linear change. And we have not learned. We have to, it's a required skill, not a natural skill, dealing with non-linear change.
Okay, maybe we have time for just 2 more questions. Yeah.
What is the future of taxation in globalized internet commerce?
What is the future of taxation?
Future of taxation.
No
Future
taxation.
taxation.
No taxation.
Okay.
I'm not joking. Because please remember, in the internet business, when you talk about taxation, taxation is built upon certain principles. Principles like place of business. Place of business becomes very vague in the internet world. Alright? Then it's built upon something called permanent establishment. The concept of permanent establishment is going away. Then the concept of where is the value addition captured in taxation. And that again is getting away, because you may actually be making losses and making more money in terms of valuation. Correct? Greater losses, greater valuation, no taxation.
We have time for more questions?
Yeah, do you have more questions? Sure.
This is again for Mr. Pai. Why are Myntra and Flipkart going to the mobile apps? Do you think it is useful?
I think they want to be ahead of the curve, but I'll add only one caveat. Human beings change their habits very slowly. And they just come onto the net, even though we do on this, but many people, they just come onto the net. A large part of populations come onto the net. Maybe 10-15% does everything on the mobile. So I think, for example, in the 2002-2003 boom, why did it fail? It failed because people didn't get onto the web in the speed that everybody thought they'll get on. And now they got onto the web at the speed that people thought of 10 years back. Because habits change, human beings' habits change. Now these are people ahead of the curve. I think more and more is coming in the mobile. But they must understand that people with the money are just come onto the web. It's the kids with no money looking for deep discounts over the mobile. So they really got to think it through. So I'm not giving the answer. They got to think it through. Okay? Because the people with the money are the people between, let's say, 35 to 65. They got the money. These kids have no money. They want discount. They want free.
This question is for Mr. Sharad. Although we do get your point of planning the 10 to 100 journey ahead of time, but when you've not even reached one, what should one focus on? Early product and the first users, or the long-term journey?
Both. You know, I mean, it has to be both. I mean, Stephen Covey said it very nicely. It's the PPC principle. You got to focus on production and the production capability. I mean, this is the paradox of a life, I would say, of not just entrepreneurship, where you got to focus, you know, on two time dimensions at the same time. And I'm sure Mohandas has more to say about that, but it has to be both.
Okay, do we have a last question there?
And may I take a shot at this? One more shot at this. I mean, inspired by Mohan in making provocative statements. See, our traditional notion of entrepreneurship was, you know, I have to do how the day went, how this month went, because it was a rent-seeking notion of entrepreneurship. And that rent-seeking notion of entrepreneurship needed only to worry about the short term, never for the long term. And that mercenary entrepreneurship is going to be dead in India. Because that's why you have this notion called, you can Google this word called missionary entrepreneurship. Because a missionary entrepreneur is by definition thinking of the long term. Airbnb, that guy is not out to just make money, of course which he will, but he is out to his mission is to change the way people use hotels. And that missionary entrepreneurship by definition gives you the long-term perspective while you activate the short-term. So it allows you to bring this together. So whenever there is a collision in the recent years that taken place between a mercenary entrepreneur, usually from parts of Rajasthan from a certain community that we all know, and a missionary entrepreneur, you will find a missionary entrepreneur will win. I believe Flipkart will beat Snapdeal because they are much more missionary than Snapdeal is, although both of them are my friends. So
I have the last question. Do you have the last question?
Sure, please.
Please, Sharma says, retweet.
Yeah, that you need a missionary position in life.
Why are VCs only looking at proven safe models and going with the herd mentality rather than looking at innovation and investee potential?
Our
VCs have others' money, so obviously they have to be careful about where they invest. Where the returns are possible, they would invest.
No, I am usually not a defender of VCs, but in this case, I think the diversity of businesses that have received investment in the last 2 years is far higher than was the diversity of businesses that received investment in the previous 5 years. So I think things are getting better, and there is much more early stage risk capital that is coming in, and we need more exits for this appetite to build up. And without exits, you know, unless people learn that they can be winners even as investors because they made a bet on a company that looks like a purple cow, you know, why would people invest more in purple cows, right, tomorrow when they meet? So I think we need to create an environment for exits, as you were saying, and the more they happen, the more diversity of businesses will get funded as we go forward.
Okay, great. I think we need to wind down. We are well over our time. Yeah, sure, please.
The question was not answered.
I know.
That's the answer which I am looking for.
Okay.
The WhatsApp and TiEcon thing.
Yeah.
So what's the right answer?
The right answer? Yeah. The right answer to me is any business which is a net consumer of bandwidth beyond X, and you can define the X, should pay for it anywhere in the world.
Except that WhatsApp is also generating a lot of bandwidth and traffic, which is why we think
but somebody else is paying.
Users pay.
No, please. This is the important thing. Look, in WhatsApp, there are millions of people getting on, and they're getting on through certain plans. So they are paying the value for WhatsApp, and WhatsApp is getting the market valuation.
because there is no cost in the statement of revenue. There is no cost. Cost of goods sold is nothing. Because these people are subsidizing. Once all these poor, dumb morons understand, they subsidize these guys are making money, they're going to stand up and say, hey buddy, you better pay for it, because you are getting the value and we are paying for it. At the end of it, we get almost nothing. It's a very philosophical issue which you must debate and you've got to be careful about it.
Okay. My question is very simple. Only on one line, a telecom is regulated and pays AGR. WhatsApp on a calling doesn't pay, it doesn't come under license. What's your take on it? Should it be allowed? Should not? Or the
You allow anybody to do it because that is net neutrality. Once you come to a certain point and you find everybody is consuming bandwidth above a certain level globally, or in India maybe 5%, 2%, 3% for one particular app, you start to do that because they have to pay for it.
So Sharad, there are too many open provocative statements being left on the table. So I think we need to do a Twitter fight.
You know what? Tomorrow party dies, AT&T dies, the whole thing is gone. Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to keep it up?
Okay. All right, Sharad.
I think what Mohan has a point is there is a finite resource. The capacity, data capacity in the air is limited resources. There's a certain physics that prevents it from unlimited growth. So therefore, I think there are two ways to solve this. First of all, I think everybody agrees the economic way to solve this is congestion pricing to some extent, which is what you are pointing to. Now, the congestion price can be set by the consumer or can be set by the producer. Now, I think there is agreement amongst the economists between that. So, I think the overlay that I would like to add to that, which is I think the conversation that is going on, is if the congestion pricing is paid by the consumer, then in both cases it solves the congestion issue. But if the congestion pricing is paid by the consumer, then it keeps the barrier for new producers low. Actually, because if there is new producer can come in very easily. If the congestion pricing is paid by the producer,
above certain level.
Yeah, but whatever form. So I think there is an argument here that if you really, both are workable, they'll solve the problem, bring demand and supply and control. But one creates barriers of entry for producers and one does not. And therefore, the logic here is, therefore, the congestion pricing should be paid by the consumer. It's for the consumer to decide whether this video is phone, in which case he may pay for it or not pay for it depending on the individual, or it's education, and they can then decide whether what it's worth to them.
Okay.
So I think this is a very long conversation as he points out, and it's worth a debate here.
I disagree with most of what was said here on this, so I will not carry this one forward. I think we have I think the simpler takeaway from what Sharad has been saying is the missionary position which you need to adopt. But I think we've had a great discussion. Thank you so much for your participation, interaction all the way into 9 p.m. And thank you, gentlemen, very much for a lovely panel.